Hey everyone, this is Coach Marc Nolan, and welcome back to the episode of Sports Parents University. Today, we're going to be talking about the senior year, the transition you never saw coming. But first, I want to congratulate all those athletes out there and your parents and grandmom and grandpop and everybody else who signed your national letter of intent last week, which is actually the last one that's coming up. But welcome back. So today, I'm going to give you probably one of the most important messages of my entire 51-year coaching career. Because senior year, especially for the classes of 2025 and 2026, is no longer what you think it is. It's not the victory lap. It's not the done deal. It's not that we made it and we're heading to Disney moment for the parents who want it to be that way. Because in today's NIL and the transfer portal era, senior year is the year that determines whether your athlete actually thrives in college or becomes another statistic. So let's dive in. The transition year starts really the day after National Signing Day. And here's the truth that really nobody wants to talk about. Not your high school coach, not your AD, nobody. Senior year isn't the finish line. The real transition begins the morning after signing day. I know that parents are excited and they exhale, athletes trying to relax. Training slows down, the focus dips a little bit, learning stops. But while your family is celebrating, the portal is opening. NIL deals are shifting. Coaches are leaving at a rapid pace. Older transfers are arriving. The depth chart is being rewritten, and competition is aging up fast. This is why I no longer call it the National Signing Day. I call it NLD, no longer a dream day, because the dream ends and the work begins. Your new twilight zone of being that everything high school has now shifted and turned into a full-time job. And that 20-something blue-haired assistant manager at Dairy Queen used to work for is now replaced with college compliance managers, position coaches at your skill, a head coach whose name and contract are on the chopping block, and a new person called the college general manager who's overseeing everything to include the new recruiting board with the next year's class being recruited, is just looking at who is going to be able to hang. This is the new reality. And the reality is something I call SHU, which are called Stay Home University and the In and Out athlete. Let me introduce these two categories of athletes I've seen explode in the last couple of years. SHU stands for Stay Home University students. You know, these are the athletes who sign, they move into the dorms, then they get crushed by the new pace. They hit the portal and are home by Halloween. And of course, start the blame game. The coaches lied to me, or they brought in another person to compete against me, or I didn't like the coach. When the reality is, you simply did not get serious and thought your high school career could carry you through. The In and Out burger athlete, well, they go into one school, 3 months later, they're out. Then in someplace else, and then they're out again. Look, I know a former first-team All-American, number one in his class nationally, who is now on his fourth school in 18 months. And not because he wasn't talented, but because he wasn't prepared. And whose parents never moved out from my Sammy, the senior, is a high school All-American. So he's all set for the next 4 years and the next All-American award in college. Doesn't happen. But here's the 15 minutes of fame warning I'm giving you for parents. For decades, I've pulled every scholarship athlete aside on signing day and said to them, look, enjoy this 15 minutes of fame because it's not going to last. Because on that day, yes, the cameras are flashing, the graphics drop, mom and dad cry, grandmom and grandpop are there, the comments say, welcome home. Everyone feels like the dream has arrived. But here's the truth. The same fans celebrating your athlete today, well, they may be criticizing them in 15 months. And with the transfer portal, maybe even 15 weeks, and for some 15 days of guys who have shown up and then left. So I want to tell you a little personal story. One I'll never forget of a signing day a couple years ago. Young man, tremendous talent, finished the photos. We walked up to me and said, Coach, I made it and I wouldn't be here without you, your help. But for those who know me, it's really never been about me, but I kept my focus on him. Put my hand on his shoulder and I said to him, no, son, you didn't make it. You just started it. So I want to fast forward. His freshman year, he redshirted in his college season and was living at large at the SEC school of his dreams. And he was doing okay, but had recently lost his dad to cancer. And I knew they were tight. The dad even asked me while he was laying in his hospital bed to please make sure you take care of my boy. And I assured him I would. I did my best to stay up with him, and I knew he was overwhelmed physically. He was struggling academically. He was losing confidence. He was falling on the depth chart. But he was still on the team, and the coaches I knew kept me in the loop after his dad passed. But they also had a job to do. Then I received a call from this young man while I was at a combine camp the following spring, and right before the start of spring ball at the school. And with his voice crackling, he said to me, Coach, I was just told by Coach X in an email that my services were no longer required and I have to be out of the athletic dorm by the end of the week. He said to me, what does this mean? I told him he was no longer on the team and you are now going to just be a student and all your nice things you had on that full ride are now gone. No more free tuition. No more athletic gear, no more scholastic assistants, no more meal cards. And now you're going to have to find out what it's like to no longer being the big man on campus and probably have to go into debt if you wanted to stay there. You know, what I know is that it was not because he lacked talent, but because he thought signing day was the mountaintop, when it was only the trailhead of a much larger mountain he had to climb. I've watched that same story unfold hundreds of times on posts and in articles throughout my life that I've read and personally I've seen. So I offer this section as just another warning, especially in today's short-lived NIL world. The good news is that this young man did graduate from that SEC school, and I was honored when he asked me to be at his wedding when he got married. And he was doing great today. And I still speak with him almost 17 years later after his National Signing Day, as I do many of the athletes I've worked with. So here's some data for your parents on the transfer portal that you really should look at. I want to talk about some of these numbers because these matter. For instance, last year, over 11,000 football players entered the transfer portal. Over 31,000 athletes across all NCAA sports, and a massive percentage of them were freshmen and sophomores. 30 to 40% of them never will land another NCAA program job. And 46.3 of the top 247 can't-miss athletes transferred at least once. The portal isn't a parachute. It's a plan. It's a marketplace. And your 18-year-old is competing against 21, 22, 23, 24-year-old grown men and women. And here's I want to talk about something we call the return of the hidden costs. Parents, I want you to embrace yourself because the one moment that you're celebrating, full ride, no more training costs, no more camps, no more this, no more that. And then 6 months later, they're back to funding NIL consultants, transfer portal agents at $5,000 to $7,000 to $10,000, portal showcase camps, emergency recruitment help, off-season college level trainers who specialize in NIL transfer portal. The next exact ranking camps they thought they never had retired from, well, guess what? They're back at it because their athlete wasn't prepared, because they coasted after signing day, because they thought the hard part was over. Meanwhile, college coaches, they were evaluating. They were evaluating your strength, the speed, the discipline, the academic habits, the resiliency, and the athlete who didn't keep up. That might be the biggest one for you to focus on, moms and dads. And here's what I'm calling the TPD, the transfer portal bound. It's a term I want every parent to memorize. TPD, transfer portal bound. Because if your athlete isn't prepared physically academically, emotionally, and mentally, they're TPD before they unpack in the dorm room. So don't let your senior become that SHU student, that in and out transfer, that TPB athlete, or the 15-month welcome home post that turns into a 15-second new chapter graphic with no applause. And for those of you in the class of 2026, let me give you this warning. The class of 2026 might face the hardest path of any class I've ever coached post-COVID because the game is evolving faster than their development cycle. Parents and private coaches talk about playing on Sundays. It's crazy to say that. But most athletes haven't experienced a single Saturday morning college workout. So don't project that, please. College coaches aren't recruiting potential anymore. They're recruiting production. They're recruiting maturity. They're recruiting now. If your athlete isn't preparing for college today, they may not survive college tomorrow. And as my new saying is, just say no, KNOW. This is what I call the senior year blueprint. You just say no means your family must know these things. Know the academic load. Know the strength and speed demands. Know the depth chart reality. Know the NIL expectations. Know the financial aid package. Know the time constraints. Know the mental toughness needs. Know the communication expectations. And know how to compete at a college level and how to stay ready. Know that NLD is the beginning, not the end. Senior year is no longer about being discovered. It's about being prepared. Because this is the year that separates the athletes who thrive in college from the ones who don't make it past midterms. So please, athletes and parents, don't let your athlete become a statistic. Prepare now, train now, communicate now, learn now. And finally, this is the Parents Sports University podcast, and I hope every one of you take my terms and conditions very serious. I'm going to say, just say no. I wish you all a happy day, a happy week, a happy month, and happy holidays. Take care, everyone. This is Coach Nolan signing off. Bye-bye.